Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are a delegation from Indonesia, from Universitas Indonesia, and we are going to present you about Nasl implementation as part of Maqasid Syariah on externality for sustainable development. We are Nadhifa Meitasari and then two my friends, Yuri, Oktaviani, and Askar. Okay, in this study we use methodology, literature study, and qualitative methods. First, we see that development today including only one aspect on theory, triple bottom line. The triple bottom line theory says the development should consist of three aspects. The first is economy, and then social and environmental aspect. But we see nowadays the development itself, we see that the nation have a good growth or low growth. We see by the GDP, which is on this aspect, economy aspect. So what's happened if the development is not balanced between these three aspects? It's more likely to be in this side, economic side. So we know that when the country is more likely to use parameter for their growth using economics, that we know it's GDP, the parameter is GDP, the country is more likely push their limit to reach the potential output, and sometimes to reach the potential output they create a negative externality like pollution, and then it creates environmental damage. So what happened if the environmental damage, the damage itself, we know that the main actor of the economy, the main actor that control the growth of the nation is human, right? And then when there's an environmental damage, it has impact to the people who live in it, who live in the area that being damaged. And the impact is the productivity for people who live in that area is become lower, and also the quality of life of the people who live in there also become lower. There's a study in Birmingham that said 151 children in a school. They have children that live in polluted area that contaminated by lead, and there's children who not live in contaminated area. And the result is the children in that school that live in contaminated lead area has lower average score than children who live in clean area and uncontaminated. So we can see that there's correlation between the human in this study. We're going to say that human is the main actor of the growth of great decision in economic, that environmental is give impact on human itself, like that.
Next, we're going to discuss about the Nasl itself, like what the title said, that Nasl implementation. First of all, what is Nasl? Nasl is descendant, one of the component of the 5 objective of Syariah, Maqasid Syariah. There's religion, wealth, intellection, and etc. Prophet Ibrahim AS have prayed that he wants that his descendants who live in Mecca to be provided with fruit. We know that Mecca is a barren place. It is surrounded by this desert. So in order to make them survive in that environment, Prophet Ibrahim prayed that he wanted his descendants are provided with fruit. So the fruit is like the antidote for that kind of environment. Secondly, Prophet Ibrahim also prayed that Rabbi habli minas solihin, my Lord grant me a child from among the righteous. This implies that the Prophet also wants that his descendant can be smart, can be clever, righteous, pious, etc. From these two ayah, we can conclude that it's a big concept of protecting Nasl. That is consists of two. That we to protect the Nasl, we must prepare the best environment and the best descendant. earlier we have discussed about the environment. Now we're going to discuss how to prepare the best descendant. The key is education. Others said that education is a process of instilling something into human beings. So what is the something? What is the content? The content of the education. What will we transfer to the recipient of the education? Of course, Islam as a way of life wants that goodness is to be instilled into the human beings, but both individually and society. Education in Islam is not only ta'lim, it's not only transferring knowledge, it is also forming the manners, forming the adab. So the something means not only knowledge but also the adab, the manners. The knowledge must be beneficial. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also said in two hadith. First, he prayed that, Allah, I seek refuge from thee to the knowledge that is not beneficial. So the Prophet wants that every knowledge that he received is the beneficial one. And in the other hadith, Sahih Bukhari, khairun nas anfa'uhum linnas. So the best of people are those that bring most benefit to the rest of mankind. So to be the best people, we must be beneficial to others. And Imam Shafi'i has defined that knowledge is the one which is beneficial. It is not what you memorize. So if you receive something from class and it is not beneficial to others, it is not considered as knowledge. We also see that family's role is one of the it's very important in terms of education. We know that family is the first entity of the society that every human being faces. There are many studies that we found, but this is the three that we think that show the best example that children learn many important things about the life from observing and interacting with their parents. Parents, common and role model have a lifelong impact on children. So, as a parent which is the leader of the family is they give the best influence to their children. So why do we must invest in education? Because it gives return. The return on education, both quantity and quality, are these below. A joint law used the Thailand's production function and found out that adding 1 year of education can boost farm output by 2.5%. The others you can see it in the slide. And quality, by reducing class size from 30 students to 25 students for every one teacher, that means that the teacher have less students to be focused on, has resulted 0.4% increase in return on educational investment. This is less from me. The combination of knowledge, amal, and adab creates harmony in the combination of education according to Islamic views. So the knowledge we receive has to be done in daily activities, in amal, in the doing, and it is better to covered by adab, like this.
Yeah, when look at the Brundtland report in 1987, which gave a very clear definition about sustainable development. Sustainable development is the development that meets the needs and desire of the present without compromising the future generation that meets the needs. The definition gives a sense that attention to various aspects of sustainable development in synergy, not only pay attention to physical aspect, but also pay attention to social aspect that can improve of quality of human resources itself, which will build an environment in sustainable manner. Next. Why should sustainable development? When we discuss sustainable development, it is important to emphasize that they can expect to the present generation and the future generation. Maximize the personal benefit to the present by extracting natural resources that exist regardless of their impact is not sustainable development. While if we implement sustainable development, we can improve quality of human resources also. We'll manage and preserve nature for the future. Education is one of the forms to continue to find tradition and to good habit from one generation and the next generation. With education and balance with good moral, meets the needs, will pay attention to the environment, the welfare of human and other living organisms. Next. As a research in 1991 on practice of agrarian economy in Pakistan proved that economic growth or GDP of a country is directly proportional to the level of education of citizens in a country. That is the effort of capacity building on human resources, in this case in the form of education, give real impact in the form of welfare is illustrated by increased per capita income. Education in this context, not only formal education, but also the cultivation values by family and good social environment influence a worldview of people. The quality education and conducive environment has strategic role to establish a framework to think of value in a person and has implication to the selection, decision, and action. Human become strategic target in developing development. Their position as a driver at the same time become the object which is driven in development. Optimization makes rule and function in human. Its crucial decision have to realize development to achievement the objective of development to prosper. It is necessary infiltration to value through education to ensure the pace of sustainable development that help protect Nasl by human. That because human is an actor determinant on development in the present and the future.
Okay, so this is the diagram. We can see why the protection of Nasl is important, because the human, the quality of the environment give impact to the human, and it creates a conducive situation to education. And the education, there is a value that being internalized to the human, right? So finally, the human can decide what they want to decide, and also in economic decision, right? So the human, the family, take a role in this education to internalize the value. So the education give return on economics that my friends already explained about, the study in Bangladesh, and so on. So if we protect the Nasl, it will give maslahah, or a good, something good. And can realizing that the protection of Nasl is done by improving the quality of the descendant. By what? By education and create a good environment, so that it will achieve sustainable development, that being our goal.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Great time.
And we are thankful for our faculty Economic and Business Universitas Indonesia, BNI Syariah, and Rumah Zakat.
Thank you very much. This was a great joint work. Do you have any questions in the room? Sure. Wonderful job, member. Is there any question?
Yeah.
Okay. Please.
Thank you very much. So, you know, sustainability, of course, is a big question now. But I want to see if you have reflected on the problem that if you leave markets alone, they will create unsustainable outcomes. So what sort of interference you want in the market to bring sustainability to market? So for example, the question you gave, or the example you gave from Birmingham, we had the most free market in the United Kingdom, but we created that problem. So until there is intervention in the market outcome, we cannot change that. If you look at your own situation in Indonesia, if you leave the market, you would have unsustainable logging all the time. So unless you bring controls on the market. Now, how do you systematically bring control on the market to create sustainability?
Heading to sustainable development in the market, right?
Through the market.
Through the market. So in this discussion, we have study about the education itself. Finally, when the people get educated, the people create when one people and it becomes two people, three people, and it finally creates society. If the society being educated, so their choice become the education. It's finally create a worldview that finally make human choose what to be decided, and this education. And when the education is finally internalized, the value is being internalized to the human. The human can create a decision, include economic decision that more sustainable.
Are you being too optimistic on human behavior?
Yes.
With education, I think yeah.
Please ask.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just a suggestion. I think.
Hold on a second.
Okay. I think just a suggestion. If we talk about Nasl or I think beside the education, we have also think about the how. Because yeah, we can create a human with great brain capability, but without if they sick, they can't do anything. So I think you have to consider also the health problem to create the good muscle. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for the suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like firstly to welcome you to Istanbul and thanks for your very elaborate presentation. The question is the following. In your model, you split the pie into three pieces, into three blocks: economy, environment, and ethics. Could you yes, please go back to the pie? Yes, magic pie. Yeah, with three slices. Environmental, economic, and social blocks. Is there any room for improvement to include something in the light of Quran and Sunnah to this model, not merely basing the model on the three pillars, which is actually also the conventional economic proposal, but
Actually, we can improve more from this, because this is a concept from convention from John Kington. I think we cannot make more. We cannot make a theory, because we still undergraduate and we're not. We didn't have any capacity yet to make a new theory.
I think when there is a will, there is a way. If you try something, you will. Because I'm not sure whether you participated on yesterday's session. One of our colleagues were talking about the problem of mimicry. So we just take the existing models on the West, the existing pictures and tables from the West, and putting on top of them Islamic labels. Why not to come with something different?
Yes, thank you.
For the following year, please, when you come here, we want to see 2 pies, 3 pies, use much more slices.
Okay, thank you for your feedback. We appreciate it.
Okay, is there another question? That's it. Is Yuri here? Yudi, Ahmed, Faisal? Yudi, Ahmed, Faisal? Okay, I think that's it for this session. Thank you very much for your participation. And thank you again.
Glad to see very young people who are into the subject of Islamic economics and finance.
Askar, Ahmed, Askar. That Islam was built for the young generation. During the panel session, I want to have so this is a great opportunity. There were a lot of academicians from all around the world gathered at one to take initiative for some kind of step. I think for the first. So we have contact, we have collaboration with each other, and that's movement of academics. So sharing of knowledge is very important. Yes, I was going to do research. On the Turkish perspective, Pakistani perspective.
Ayağa kalkarsan hocam tek yazımın önünde var. Bir adım şu aynen. Hocam sen ortadan
have you already placed some memorandum of
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let me welcome you to this session 15. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 papers. And I'm going to just change the order. I'm going to start with last paper by Emma. Are you ready, Emma?
Yes.
So the rule of game is like about 15 minutes, and then if you have any question, we answer, and then go to the next paper, okay? And the next one will be Brother Chakir, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You ready? You have this, is it working? This one? It's working, yes. Line one. I don't do that. Put this in full screen.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله أبدأ وعلى الله أتوكل. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for accepting my paper by the impact of investors' Islamic behavior on the return of Islamic index. I'm a PhD student in FSEC stats from Tunisia. Our paper is focusing on our paper analyzes the effect of investor sentiment on the performance of Islamic stock index. Why we do this work? To give the investor a clearer market image in order to make best decision. How? How we do it? By using the software used, we gained measures of feelings and we tested their effects on contemporary and related fields. Our plan begins by an introduction, then chapter 1 that presents the Islamic financial markets. After that, we give a view of the financial markets analysis and contribution of behavioral finance. Then an empirical study, and finally a conclusion. As we know, according to indeed, we can see Islamic finance is the new force in the financial market. Therefore, our work tends to analyze the Islamic stock market in general and the effect of the percents of Syariah on the performance of Islamic equity indices in particular. So
Sorry, do you have a microphone there?
is
The voice is rather little here.
Yes.
Do you have any microphone there, guys? No?
Our problematic is to find how can we assess the Islamic sentimental dimension and what impact it exerts on the performance of stock market indices. The chapter 1, a presentation of the Islamic finance, the behavioral of finance, and a classification of investors different investors. The empirical study, we test our hypotheses, which are these 6 hypotheses, to know if there is a relation between religious sentiment and the return of Islamic Dow Jones market. The methodology, first we construct the investor sentiment index by using Google Trends. Our first result, Google Trends gives us a trend of the World Islamic Index. That is to say, how much Islamic index is repeated by computer, by internet users. Then a geographical repartition. We find that this word is very found in the zone of Indonesia and less found in the zone of the United States of America. How we construct our indices? We search these words by Google Trends, and then we make a principal component analysis to assess the relationship between the variables that are used and whether the construction of the two sentiment indexes is reasonable. We find four factors. Then we measure the religious indices and the speculator indices. Our model is that way. Our results. It's a table of correlation between cost unit USA, is a consumer opinion sentiment of the United States of America. Cosint is the consumer opinion sentiment of Indonesia. Speculator is our constructed indices of speculator, and religious, our sentimental indices of the religious. Our estimation of the model gives us this estimation. We estimate the effect of the sentimental indices on the return of the Dow Jones Islamic market. Then we do Granger causal links to test if there is a causality links between these indices. And we do also a joint causality to test if our two measures exert jointly an effect on the return of Islamic indices. Finally, that we have shown that religious and speculator sentimental indices act jointly on contemporary Dow Jones Islamic market returns through an estimate of the VAR to test the dilated returns. We show that the variable of religious feeling is a dynamic variable able to predict future values of Islamic stock index returns. Indeed, our religious sentiment variable becomes positive and significant after 42 or almost 10 months. She has so a positive and significant effect on the Dow Jones Islamic market returns. Using the Granger causality, we showed that the religious sentiment influences the performance of the equity indices. Thus, we have proved that the speculator feeling has an impact on yields. Similarly, we explain how the religious and speculator sentimental act together on yields Dow Jones Islamic market after a delay of 1 week, and that way we have validated some of our assumptions and rejected others. Beyond the test theories of feeling, this paper also illustrates the utility of research data in financial application. This method opens the door to new empirical work in the field of financial theory. Finally, we managed to give the reader a true image reflecting reality and approaching behavioral theory. In addition, we attempt to carefully analyze all the behavioral components includes firstly the feeling that is able to make change in incomes and stability of the financial assets, And secondly, action and the initiative to invest. That is to say, we must be careful more on the trust and confidence of investors of the Dow Jones Islamic market. Thank you.
Any question from the floor? Yeah, Mehmet.
Sorry, it's a very interesting paper, but I couldn't see how you measure the sentiments.
Yes,
If you could explain that to us, would be really good.
Even though I'm here,
I give the formula.
The formula, but if you can explain to us, yeah?
Yes.
Please, thank you.
We measure the sum of the research words in this table. We enter every word in Google Trends, and then he will give us a CSV file. How much is, every word is repeated.
But what is the sentiment here?
Okay?
This is a French definition of sentiment. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, how do you define sentiment? What is sentiment for you?
What is that sentiment?
What is sentiment for you? In your research, what is sentiment?
Yes, we try to make difference between religious sentiment and speculative sentiment.
So, what is religious sentiment? How do you measure religious sentiment?
Actually,
by Google Trends, we measure every word that is related to religious.
Okay, can you?
This religious. These are words related to religious sentiment. If and these are related to speculative feelings.
That is French definition. It's a French definition. It's not Anglo-Saxon.
Okay, but Emma, you're Emma, okay. Emma, so you said so you need. How do you calculate get this time series data? What are you talking about?
By Google Trends, he gives us. We enter one word, and he gives us data, weekly data.
Weekly data of what?
Data of the repeated words. How much we enter this word by me, by you, by he, and he calculated all the average of the probability of each word.
Yes, so but the series, what is the series that you construct based on this term?
International, by all the words.
But what are those things? Is it numbers? Or some, so let's say I do unemployment. I get a series of what? You get a series, right? And you're trying to regress the second
Google requests.
maybe number of Google requests
number of the times
through
of
the Google search tool.
Yes.
There is a Google search tool, yes. So she measured by this tool how many requests were done during some time period or on some time.
Fine, but she is in the second step. She is using this series and regressing against Dow Jones, right?
Yes.
So, but how is this series being calculated over time? That's my question.
By Google Trends, he gives us
The formula
CSV.
behind the Google Trend probably we don't know. So Google Trend
It is
uses some algorithm.
it is a new.
Yes,
Yes, I can give you. It is firstly this research is firstly elaborated by Ida Endor. He is the first who used Google Trends to detect the sentiment, to measure the sentiments, and I calculate. I use his research and applicated. I try to applicate it in the Islamic context.
I don't mean to.
I don't have any problem with that. But my question is, can somebody say it in French what I meant? So she is doing the next stage. She has Dow Jones, and she has all two religious indexes. One is speculative and another religious. So she needs a time series data to regress against another time series data.
Yes.
How does she get this time series data?
Madame, non, il demande la période. C'est-à-dire la période dans laquelle vous avez
Yes,
mesuré.
I say it is from the 1st of January 2006 until the end of the 2014.
I think
It is a big data.
That data is possible. Data is not a problem because if you go Google Index, okay, you put a word.
If
like
you have
put
Google
Kabir
Trends,
Hassan.
I will tell you.
Okay, Kabir Hassan, how many times people search for Kabir Hassan? Okay, you put a period, let's say that from 2014 January to 2016 August. So how many times Kabir Hassan was
Exactly.
It's a very big data because everyone search for Kabir Hassan.
This is the results.
Okay,
This is
weekly basis.
Yes, this is the results of Google Trends.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. So this is a new
Excuse me. Yes. I had a lot of difficulties to understand Google Trends. Everyone who I tell him to explain me how Google Trends works, he doesn't know. So
I'm okay with that, but the particular the words that you used for sentiment, how much that represents the Islamic sentiment? That's the question I'm raising. Otherwise, data, I don't have the problem. Like if you go to the list, would you mind to go to the list? Your list
of words?
Sentiments.
Of words.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like you have Quran, okay, Sharia, okay, donations, okay. Like you don't have riba.
Yes, I focus on other words, but I don't find any trends because it gives us the most research words.
Okay.
That's another problem that I have.
But that constrains the quality of the data. I understand the difficulty. Thank you.
Okay, just maybe last question, Prof.
Yeah, quickly.
Quickly, yes, exactly.
Easy one.
Yes, easy one. For example, the Quran, let's say the Sharia or the Sunnah, there will be different writing, for example.
Yes.
So how to overcome that problem actually? Because let's say the Quran is not the way you are writing. The Sharia maybe is including the H or like something like that actually. So how you differentiate in terms of the wording actually? Thank you. Thank you.
So he's asking if you spelling. If you spell it differently, I mean, how do you take care of the spelling of this word?
Google understands.
Google understands?
Because when you search and misspell even the word, it will show you the related words.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thanks. Our second presenter is, thank you very much, Chakir Ahmed, and the title of his paper is Perception Towards Islamic Banking and Exploring its Potential, a study of Muslim entrepreneurs in India. That's great. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
So Raghuram Rajan is gone. Is that our governor?
On 4th.
On the 4th of?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But his deputy has been appointed.
Oh.
Most likely the policy is going to be continued.
So you're going to see it or?
No.
Okay.
Secretary something.
Can you he was in favor of something.
I'm going to publish.
Participants. I have chosen a topic which is basically exploratory in nature, because I have taken into account the Indian conditions, and in the Indian condition, what is the and in the Indian conditions, what is the potential of Islamic banking? Because Islamic banking is becoming popular world over, and but it is mostly confined to the most of the Islamic countries. And India, in India there are at present more than 180 million Muslim population, which constitutes little over 14% of the total population of India. And we are at the moment second largest Muslim population in the world, next only to the Indonesia. And the rate at which population is growing, it is expected that by 2050, we will surpass the Indonesia and become the first largest Muslim population in the world. Socio-economic conditions of Muslims are not very good. In fact, educationally they are backward, economically also they are extremely backward. A significant proportion suffers from poverty. Basic economic activity is micro enterprises. Most of the Muslims, they have traditional skills, and using their traditional skills, they basically undertake some micro enterprises in which the entire family is engaged with, but they are not able to run to expand their business beyond a limit. It has its own limitation. Taking all these factors into account, we thought that we should explore the potential, especially in the northern India, because a greater proportion of Muslims are concentrated in the northern India, especially in UP and Bihar, the two biggest states in India. While there are other areas also, for example, in Kerala, Muslims are relatively better off. So what I have chosen to conduct a primary survey of two Muslim entrepreneur-dominated districts in Uttar Pradesh, UP and Bihar. So I told you that most of the Indian Muslims, they run micro and small enterprises. Muslims hesitate to borrow from banks and financial institutions, which prevent them from maximizing their economic potential. Another problem is that sometimes because of religion, later on I will show the data, sometimes because of interest being prohibited in Islam, people hesitate to borrow. But sometimes also because of procedures and also because of certain, the word I should use, they are sometimes discouraged also by the banking staff. So present study has been conducted to analyze the Islamic banking environment in India, ascertain the perception about Islamic banking, and explore its potential in general and among Muslim entrepreneurs in particular. Specific objectives are to evaluate the Islamic banking environment in India, analyze the perception of Islamic banking among Muslims, and to explore the potential of Islamic banking. As I told you, it is based on primary data. A sample of 102 Muslim entrepreneurs was chosen at random, and they were 51 each from Muradabad and Aligarh. Most of these 102 selected respondents, they basically run micro enterprises. Of course, questions were asked through questionnaire. Questionnaire had three major components. Information related to personal and business information, then Islamic banking related questions as well as permanent banking system. As far as Islamic banking related questions are concerned, we basically focused upon awareness about Islamic banking among Muslim entrepreneurs, to what extent they know about Islamic banking, number one. What is likely future potential by analyzing their responses, and then motivating factors. What are basically factors motivating them to go for Islamic banking? It is a basically descriptive study, simple analytical, simple analysis has been done. The responses were collected on Likert scale ranging from 1 to 5. In order to analyze the economic environment, what we did, we also looked at, tried to look at related Islamic banking on Porter's 5-force model, and we found that first, threat of substitute. So threat of substitute as far as Islamic banking are concerned is extremely low. Threat of new entrants, extremely low. But industry is very competitive. Banking industry in India is very competitive, though at the moment it is dominated by basically public sector. But now private sector is also, since 1991, private sector is expanding at a very fast rate, and in fact among the two largest banks now, number one, of course, it is the State Bank of India, which is owned by the government, but the next one is ICICI Bank, which is a private sector bank. So competition is definitely high. Bargaining power of customers is also very high, and that's why the bargaining power of suppliers are low. So as far as environment is concerned, the environment overall, if taking India's economic environment, we cannot say that it is very conducive, but an effort definitely can be made. Now, if we look at the results of this survey, so we find that more than half of the respondents, they were in the active age group, 26 to 40 years. That is exactly 54%, followed by 41 to 60 years age group, 28.4%. That means basically majority, more than 3/4, they are in active population group. Education-wise also we collected the data, and we found that undergraduate and postgraduate educated, they accounted for about 50%. 26.7% were graduate entrepreneurs, and 23.7% were postgraduate or technically educated person. And of course, remaining 30.7% were educated up to high school, and remaining were having just traditional education. An unfortunate scenario is that 60% were registered under government regulations, while remaining 40% were not. It was mainly because most of the entrepreneurs, they somehow manage resources from here and there and start some economic activity, and then after over a period of time, when their economic activity expands, then they get registered. Otherwise they continue to work under the informal sector. So 56% they are registered, 44% they are unregistered. But a very interesting thing is that it was found that little around 57.8% of the firms, they were having business experience of 10 years, while 25.5% 10 to 20 years, and more than 20 years just 16.7%. That means most of the Muslim entrepreneurs come up only after the liberalization of Indian economy. If you look at the turnover, here situation is not very good. Majority have a turnover of less than 5 million Indian rupees. That constitutes around 75,000 US dollar. 11.8% between 51 lakh to 1 crore. That means Indian rupees. That means somewhere between 75,000 to 1.5 lakh US dollar. And only, and the rest were of course more than that means around 20% were more than having 1.5 lakh, more than 1.5 lakh thousand, 1.5 lakh US dollar turnover. Only 1/4 of the entrepreneurs had access to the bank credit. Remained 26.5% exactly, and 3/4 they were not having any access to any formal or informal sources of credit. They were just managing from their own resources. Now, we asked a question: why don't you borrow from the banks? Because government, there are so many banks, especially in the private sector, also have come up. So, very interesting, we find that 65.75, 66% of Muslims entrepreneurs did not take credit due to interest. Because interest is forbidden in the Islam, and therefore they did not like to take to go to the bank for taking loans because of religious factors. 18% they said that it is a so legal lengthy process that we apply, and after so many formalities and after a very long period of time we get. And when we put chi-square test, we found that it was found that there was a statistically significant difference in the reasons for taking the credit. This 66% of the Muslim population, Muslim entrepreneurs, who hesitated to borrow from the banking system, the conventional banking system, they constitute the potential for Islamic banking. This is the table which we have. Half of the respondents. Now we started. We are talking about the Islamic banking and their perception. The 51% respondent consider Islamic banking system as different from conventional banking system. We asked a simple question: whether you think that Islamic banking is different than conventional banking? So about half of them said yes, it is different, and remaining 49% did not even know what is the difference. 20.4% did not have any idea about Islamic banking. 57% agreed that Islamic banking follows Sharia. 75% of the entrepreneurs believe that Islamic banking is more ethical than conventional banking. Due to its profit and loss sharing, one question we asked about risk factor. Do you think that Islamic banking is full of risk? So, 60% respondent, they thought that it will be a risky venture because it is based on profit sharing. Therefore, it is likely to be a risky venture. More than 85% respondents believe that Islamic banking can satisfy the religious as well as business obligations both. That means these Muslim entrepreneurs, they do believe that if Islamic banking is initiated and system evolves, then they can carry on their business, expand their business in line with their religious obligations. Nearly 40% of Indian Muslim entrepreneurs think that the adoption of Islamic banking is the reason for not getting affected in the global financial crisis by Gulf countries. This was a question we raised. Basically, it was raised to those who were either graduates or postgraduates. These Gulf countries, they were not affected much, especially their banking system was not affected much by the Gulf crisis. global financial crisis. But Western capitalist countries, they believed that the Gulf countries' banking system did not suffer mainly because it followed the Sharia principle. 46% respondents agreed that Islamic banking system can help to overcome recession. Thus, entrepreneurs in India, they have a strong positive perception about Islamic banking. This makes us to believe, because they believe that they can, with Islamic banking, they can carry out their business with religious obligations. They believe that it can overcome recession. We found that we concluded that there is strong positive perception about Islamic banking, and this constitutes the potential for Islamic banking in India. Then we took about question of future potential. The majority of the respondents agreed to adopt Islamic banking and believed that Islamic banking have tremendous prospects. 81% of the respondents, out of which 29% extremely agreed by that adopting Islamic banking they can expand their business. 61% said that the Islamic banking can fulfill their credit requirements. So and they consider that finance is required for expanding their business, and that means most of the nearly 92% they believe that profit and loss sharing system of Islamic banking, and they want to participate in this system. So overall, there is a positive scenario. More than 90% entrepreneurs want to participate in this system because it is a Sharia based. Then we ask question, what are basic motivating factors for adopting Islamic banking? The survey reveals two most important motivating factors for adoption of Islamic banking: profit loss sharing principle and religious belief. These are two major factors, followed by business requirements. And then we also ask questions related to social pressure and risk. So for them, social pressure and risk are less important. Now, if you now conclusion, the results of the present study indicates good potential of Islamic banking in India, especially in the northern India. Majority of the Muslim entrepreneurs think that there is a tremendous potential. Perception is that Islamic banking can fulfill the financial requirement for business in accordance with their religious obligations. Entrepreneurs want to participate in the profit loss sharing system of Islamic banking. Religious belief and business requirements are two primary motivating factors to adopt it. An initiative towards setting up an Islamic bank as a private sector bank. Let me make you clear that I am not fully aware of the functioning of the Islamic banking system. Therefore, this I am making a suggestion which I don't know whether it is correct or not. I think survey will be able to correct me if I am wrong. An initiative towards setting up an Islamic bank as a private sector bank be undertaken in Western Uttar Pradesh, where micro, small and medium Muslim entrepreneurs are significant in numbers. Initially, bank may be located in Aligarh or Muradabad, and later on its branches may be extended in new areas. Non-Muslim entrepreneurs should also be eligible and be encouraged to adopt it, because it is expected that even non-Muslims, small and medium entrepreneurs, will be attracted towards Islamic banking, basically due to profit loss sharing principle. Indian government should recognize Islamic banking system for better mobilization of Muslim entrepreneurs' potential for economic growth and development. Let me. In fact, I skipped that point. In 2007, the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh appointed a committee on reforming the monetary system under Raghuram Rajan. The Raghuram Rajan committee submitted its report in 2008, and in one paragraph it has referred to the prospects and potential of Islamic banking in India, and it has positively recommended that efforts should be made towards encouraging the Islamic banking in India. Government should especially focus on skill-oriented micro and small enterprises wherein Muslim dominate, and this will also be in accordance with our present Prime Minister's focus on skill development program, because new Prime, not new, I would say, is more than 2.5 years in service. Now he has started a program called Skill Development Program, and he is focusing too much on this, that this is going to create employment opportunities and reduce the income inequality. So our suggestion is to of course the government of India, that if you help us in starting Islamic banking, and especially in those areas where skill-oriented Muslim entrepreneurs are there, then it is going to make his own program of skill development very successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ahmed. We have only 22 minutes and 2 papers to go. Okay, one question from you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, is there any different regulations or rules for entrepreneurs between Muslim groups or the others in India?
So is there any Islamic banking law you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, there is no Islamic banking law.
No, not yet. And it will not be separately. What we will have to do, under the existing laws, we will have to take just permission and then take an initiative. And we can make a beginning at the local level, just I have suggested, and then we can spread it. But once it becomes popular, and I'm sure that more than Muslims, it will become popular among non-Muslims, because non-Muslims are more efficient entrepreneurs than the Muslims, because they follow the purely business and commercial principles. So my belief, my personal belief is that it is likely to succeed more among non-Muslims. And once it is started, it will expand very fast.
Thank you. Just to say, like Turkey, India also has a secular constitution, so whatever they do, it has to be to the existing banking law. But Turkey, you do have some variation on participation banks, the government has, but in India's case, every time, you know, like in Kerala, it's a little bit advanced, they have some Islamic financial institutions. But in other part, there's a guy called Chidambaram. He always goes to the Supreme Court and tries to put a stop to it, okay? So there is a huge resistance from the elite group, the Hindu, these higher caste Brahmins.
Yes.
They do not want the Islamic finance to come into play in India. I agree with him that if it starts, there will be more followers from the non-Muslim.
Yes. Because they are better and efficient entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I have only 20 minutes now. Sagir, by the way, he is Sagir and Kabir. We are two brothers, Sagir and Kabir. Now the third presenter, would you please come and please finish everything by 12 minutes, please. No, not you. You will be the last one. You are my brother, so. Okay, brother, 4 minutes. I love you.
Summarize.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa salatu wa salam ala ashraf. But today, I will thank the organization of this Congress and we will present our studies, the particular econometric study of the impact of zakat fund in poverty case of Algeria. The scourge of poverty is increased in all countries of the world. Each country tries to cope by implementing strategies to fight against poverty. And it cannot have a strategy to fight against poverty without observation, without indicators or aims. Among these visions, in 2003, Algeria adopted a strategy based on Islamic fundamentals. The principle was to create a fund to collect zakat, and this fund is a religious and social institution, working under the supervision of Ministry of Religious Affairs. From that, our problem of the study is how zakat fund can reduce poverty and what its contribution since its establishment in Algeria. To answer this problematic, we have put two hypotheses. The first one is that zakat fund combats against poverty by creating business and reducing unemployment. The second one is that zakat contributes to improve the level of poorest. We have divided this paper in three parts. The first one is for poverty, the second for zakat fund, and the third is for empirical studies. For poverty, we have a lot of definition, but what of them we can say that poverty is a complex phenomenon. It's not can consider it as an aspect of inequality economic. It's above all the articulate motion of social and economic inequalities. We have several types of poverty, like material poverty, which in the case poverty can be considered as the state of someone who has little financial resources and few assets. And we have social poverty, that in this case the resources are assets allow the people to have a decent living, and given that poverty is a lack of resource available. From to measure the poverty, we have a lot of indicators, a macroeconomic indicator. In this case, we have chosen to present two indicators made by UNDP, United Nations Development Program. We have IDH, Human Development Index, which is the complete many parts, like ambitious index of GDP, index of education, and health index. And we have EIPH, Human Poverty Index, which is also divided in longevity, teaching, and life condition. In our studies, we choose to the first one, which is Human Development Index, IDH. For poverty cause, we have many causes of poverty, like economic cause, like lack of revenue for necessary needs such as housing, globalization, the lack of attention to the creation of new activities, inexploited of existing natural resources. Or we have political causes, like the geographical localization of country or political stability. And the social causes, like the inability to institution to eradicate poverty, the marginalization of women, or the distinction between caste system. For zakat fund, Algeria has established zakat fund since 1991, but they began to collect the zakat in 2003. In 2003, which operate under the supervision of the Ministry of Religious Affairs to reduce poverty and help to reduce the unemployment. And its work in cooperation and coordination with neighborhood committees and the Senate and the religious committees. We can see in this graph the evolution of project financed by zakat fund in Algeria since 2003 to 2013. And we note increase in the number of projects financed by the loans Hassan from years to years. And the objective is that these companies created after some years contribute to financing another companies by paying their zakat to the zakat fund. Now, for the empirical studies, our model has been inspired by the study elaborated by Gabriel and al. In 2004, which included the role of small business in economic growth and poverty. Except for measuring poverty in this basic model, they used public support for development, the number of companies created, and the unemployment rate. For our case, we keep the unemployment rate, and we exchange two other variables with the Zakat Fund and the founding project. The methodology involves macroeconomics analysis of the links between the increase of project funded by Zakat Fund, the unemployment rate, and poverty. We have many tests to do. Before that, we present the variable. We have HDA, which measures the poverty, Human Development Index of Poverty. It reflects the level of happiness of nation by the group at some dimension. We have SHOM, which is unemployment rate, is the percentage of unemployment in the labor force. We have Zakat, which is the total amount obtained from the Zakat Fund, and we have PROJ, which is the number of projects financed by Zakat Fund. We have do many tests, like stationarity tests. We look that all the variables are stationary in the first level. Okay. For Durbin-Watson test is the same. Okay. Heteroscedasticity. Okay, no problem. Two photon normality. And we have our equation like that. Log IDH equal minus 0.32 minus. No. For the equation, we have probability statistic. It's 0.00. That means that the model is statistically robust. And we have adjusted R squared is equal to 0.93. That means that 93% of the variable explain the phenomena. We
just say in words what you found the result.
Yeah. This is the summary. Reducing of unemployment by 1% leads to increase in the HDA 0.19 because the integration of the employment in the labor force leads to an increased GDP per capita, and therefore it has a positive effect on the HDA. This value is statistically significant at 0%. An increase in loans obtained from Zakat Fund 1% lead to increase in the HDA 0.018. It's logical because these loans are intended to finance new projects, and this has a positive impact on GDP per capita, so has a positive impact on the HDA and reduce poverty. When the new project increased by 1%, it leads to the increase of HDA of 0.12. And as the new project reduce unemployment and contribute to the increase of GDP, therefore this new project improves the living level, and therefore the amelioration continues HDA. So in general, we can say that variables of the model are significant, except their contribution is still weak in Algeria. After making the numerical studies to get an idea of the contribution of Zakat Fund on the level of life in Algeria, we arrived to deduce that the Algerian Zakat Fund helped to create new business, which leads to reducing unemployment and poverty, except this contribution remains small. The creation of new enterprise through Zakat Fund helps reduce unemployment. And carry out awareness companies we recommend that carry out awareness companies to urge people to pay their Zakat payment to the Zakat Fund. Adoption of the publication of Zakat Fund bulletin, because it's very difficult to have this series, and with data, and fill out the companies created from the bottom Zakat until they can contribute also in Zakat Fund. Thank you for your attention.
Just one question. I have 10 minutes. I have one more presentation. Very short one.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. I think very interesting presentation. I'm just a bit suspicious actually, because the HDI is like the national level, right? Meaning that the HDI is representing the national HDI, the Human Development Index actually. So other than that, how to call is, yes, it's national data, but meaning that your result is saying that this 93% is explained by these 3 or 4 variables, but meaning that the HDI improvement, everything by the zakat, that's the result is telling us actually. So meaning that is
what happened to the government expenditure, for example, on the HDI, and so on and so forth, meaning that is government doing nothing, so the 93% is coming from the 4 different variables. That's maybe suggestion is maybe you put some government expenditure or some other different variables to do the furthermore empirical investigation, I think. Thank you.
Saying that basically you need to look at, put a lot more, you have all these things, but you didn't put in your empirical, you just, okay, you said at the very beginning. Where is this HDI? Okay.
Yes.
Now, you have HDI, and HDI is a dependent variable, you have only 3 independent variables. But you need to really, and you said that explain 94%, there must be something wrong because these 3 variables cannot explain the HDI. So what his suggestion is go back to your drawing board again, look at the data, and also use other experimental variables into the model. Okay? Talk to you. So, okay, thank you. Good suggestion. So give us an Sabri is my friend. Actually, he's my friend. I see him after 10 years. He used to teach in Malaysia. Then he went back to his own country, like a real Indonesian. You still look the same to me. No change in your appearance. I look younger.
Okay, good presentation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good afternoon. Being the last presenter, I think is very I get an advantage here because I can go very fast. Okay, our paper here is basically discussing about the market anomalies, comparing the conventional and Islamic stock market. This paper is basically my undergraduate student final project after revising. Then this basically the paper that we sent here. Okay, the outline of the paper, we have introductions, literature review, empirical. It's basically as usual. Basically the emergence of the Islamic stock in Malaysia at the end of 1999 and Indonesia in early 2011 was a period of phenomenal growth of the stock market in both countries. So the inception of this Islamic stock market provide a greater opportunity for Muslims to invest their money not only for the sake of gains profit, but also at the same time they can invest in the halal investment. Based on our knowledge, a lot of study has investigated the presence of anomalies or discuss about the efficient market hypothesis, focusing on the conventional stock market. Very few study, particularly on the Indonesian stock market, that has investigated the presence of the anomalies. Okay, based on these backgrounds, basically our study would like to empirically examine the difference in the return between the conventional and Islamic stock, and also at the same time we investigate the presence of seasonality or calendar anomaly in the forms the calendar anomaly in both conventional and Islamic stock market in Indonesia and Malaysia. Both we focus on both countries, and also by looking at conventional and also Islamic stock market. I just give the literature survey. I believe this study is very simple. We would like to see, the first one is basically like to see whether there are difference in terms of returns between the conventional and Islamic stock market. And the second one is basically like to see whether there is the presence of calendar anomalies in the stock market. We know that the efficient market hypothesis state that all the information available would be vastly absorbed by the stock price, but there has been evidence contradicting to the efficient market hypothesis. One of the evidence basically discuss about the anomalies. There are many anomalies, but the one that we focus here is the calendar anomalies. We would like to see whether there is an abnormal profit that can be gained by the investors during a different month. Discuss about January effect, February effect, and etc. So we use the closing stock prices for the periods of 17 years, starting from 2004 to 2012, and the data is basically gathered from the website of Jakarta Stock Exchange and also the Bursa of Malaysia. As for the conventional stock prices, Jakarta Stock Exchange we use for Indonesia. And then we have the KLSE, Kuala Lumpur Stock Exchange, for the conventional stock for the Malaysia. Jakarta Islamic Stock and the FTSE Bursa Malaysia Hijrah Syariah Index were used for the Islamic stock for Malaysia, for Indonesia and Malaysia respectively. Okay, this is our model. Since we have two objectives of the study, the first one we would like to see to empirically identify whether there is a difference in terms of return between the stock in both countries. Then we use the independent test, and second one, in order to explore the presence of calendar anomaly, right, on this stock, then we use the multiple regression. So our multiple regression here, the dependent variable basically the stock returns, both Islamic and conventional, right, in Malaysia and Indonesia, while the independent variable consisting the dummy variable. Example, let's say I would like to identify whether there is a January effect. Then for the January we have the value of 1, while for the other months we have the value of 0. Okay, this is our finding. We found that based on the table, of course, before we present our empirical finding, all the classical assumptions were tested, and also we identify, in order to test for the independent t-test here, we have to use equal variant assumption or unequal. We have tested, and basically, right, we have to use the unequal variance assumption for the independent t-test, and we found that none of the stock have a different return, meaning that there is no difference in the returns between the stock, right, either conventional of Malaysia and Indonesia, Islamic of Malaysia and Indonesia, and also across the stock, conventional and Islamic. So what does it mean? This finding implies that whenever the investors would like to invest their money either in the conventional or Islamic stock, either in Malaysia or Indonesia, they get no different return, meaning that they cannot gain the abnormal profit. But as for the Muslim, right? When they are investing their money, not simply for the sake of gaining the profit, but at the same time also they have to observe the Islamic injunction, meaning that the Islamic stock should be preferable by them. Okay, the last one, to provide the answer for the last objective here. Right, this is our empirical finding for the multiple regulations for the Malaysian stock market. There is no calendar anomalies, both for the conventional and also Islamic stock. While for the Indonesian stock market, we documented that for the conventional stock market, there were calendar anomaly during the month of April and also the month of July. And also for the Islamic stock market, for the Indonesia, we found that during the month of April also there is a calendar anomalies. So what does it mean here? So meaning that the Malaysian stock market is more efficient compared to the Indonesian stock market. And what are among the reasons here there is a calendar anomaly during the April and July Indonesian stock market? The first one is basically could be due to the provision of the Capital Market Supervision Agency, whereby all the companies should submit their report 120 days after the date of the closing of financial report by the company, basically in April. Another reason is could be to the month of April. We have many national days, such as the Day of World Bank, International Health Day. We have also the Kartini Day, the Earth Day, Indonesian Prison Day, and etc. While the reason why there is a calendar anomalies during the month of July simply due to the event of increase in world oil price, decline in the crude oil price in Indonesia, the bombing of JW Marriott, and many other events, right? That basically this could contribute to the presence of calendar anomalies in the Indonesian stock market. So what does it mean? Of course, the finding of calendar anomaly, of course, contradict to the efficient market hypothesis. So in other words, the Indonesian stock market is basically very much in line with the weak form of efficient market hypothesis. So meaning that the investors can easily predict the movements of the stock market in Indonesia, right? Because there is kind of the patterns of the stock market price movement. So in other words, the investors can gain the abnormal profit in the Indonesian stock market, but not in the Malaysian stock market. That's basically the our findings, right? Thank you for your attention and listening.
So question, Professor Mohammed.
Just a clarification point. You have monthly dummy variables, right?
Yeah.
And in the tables, I wonder whether there is a problem because you have 12 months plus the constant. So in general, the regression doesn't run because the sum of the dummy should be 1. Maybe you have problem with that regression, right? Can you please show me the table, the coefficient? Look at, you have the 12 months plus the constant. Normally you should drop the constant or keep the constant and drop 1 month. It doesn't work unless you have some missing points in your data sets for some months. This is the collinearity problem of the variables. I think there is problem with this thing.
Okay. Yeah, I think I need to recheck again. Okay, thank you for the clarification.